All right, we're going to talk about the state of Round Rock, Texas. I was super excited because yesterday I actually went to the State of Round Rock meeting. I was invited to go to this meeting. It was being hosted by the mayor, the police chief, and the Round Rock Independent School District superintendent. So I was like, I'm going to go. I thought it'd be super cool. I did a quick story on my Instagram, like, hey, y'all, I'm going to check this out. I'll update you later on my story. I honestly did not think I'd get a ton out of this, but there was so much information that I thought I need to actually come in here and do a longer, more robust gathering. So I actually took a whole bunch of notes so that I could share those with you. And instead of doing a fancy, polished, got my teleprompter going kind of video, I thought I would just literally lay this out for you, give you what I learned. And I'm telling you, if you live in Round Rock, or if you're moving to Round Rock, or if you've been checking out Round Rock and are curious about it, this is some good information. So there was a lot that was talked about, and I was pretty impressed. I actually came away from the meeting pretty impressed. So I want to share it with you, and you can literally reach out to me if you have questions about anything in particular. And I'm going to preface this by saying that the three gentlemen, right, the mayor, the police chief, and the school superintendent, of course, they're coming from a glasses half full perspective, right? This wasn't a meeting where they're like, oh my gosh, there's this problem, there's that problem. But I really felt they were very transparent. And it was a really interactive meeting. So there were definitely questions that were asked. And I felt like I walked away feeling really good about Round Rock, Texas. I did. I've lived here for years. I've always kind of felt like they're doing things good, but I've always had this fear that someday, and this still may be the case, someday Round Rock, Texas is going to be like Anaheim, California. And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like literally decades ago, Anaheim was just this little town outside of LA, and now it's just this large town outside of LA. I'll be nice. Anyway, so what did they talk about? Well, check this out. We started with the mayor. The mayor's name is Craig Morgan. He's done 2 terms. He's coming up to be hopefully reelected for his 3rd term. And after listening to him, I really hope he gets reelected because he is not a politician. Yes, he's a politician, but in all honest terms, I do not think that guy's a politician. I think he is a guy that's running a city, that's trying to do his best for the people in the city, that is struggling with dealing with growth. You all have to understand, go back 20 years, Round Rock was basically a shell, just minuscule compared to what it is now. And I'm afraid to say go forward 20 years and what's it going to be. So, in looking at what the mayor talked about, right? So again, here's, and I'm not going to go in any particular order, but he did talk a little bit about budget. He's like, hey man, the budget, this is our budget. I don't actually remember the full number, 240, 180 million, something like that. I think it was 180 million. And he said that the majority of that budget goes to public safety. Now, depending on how you define the public safety thing, that's super important. But he said the majority goes to, I believe he said, 70% goes to public safety. Now, I don't think that's actually true. Did some fact checking this morning, and it looks like it's more like 45%. However, even at 45%, that's a lot of money going towards public safety, fire, police, EMS, whatever that covers, right? That covers all the safety thing. And that is a huge priority when you run a city, is public safety. Obviously, that's a huge amount of your dollars are going to go towards public safety. And I'm going to tell you, I do think they do. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. I think they do a pretty amazing job in Round Rock. No city's perfect. Okay, so if you're going to comment down below and go, Jeff, Round Rock sucks because of X, Y, Z, I'm not going to argue with you. No city's perfect. But I do think Round Rock makes a really good effort here. So, a couple things he pointed out is that Round Rock as a whole has one of the lowest property tax rates in the entire state. And you can fact check that. It's not the lowest, but it's one of the lowest. And I would be curious, based on city size, where it ranks. I did not check it out. I just know that he said that was one of the things. And of course, he said the number one challenge, and no, it's not driving through construction. That's our challenge. He's driving through all the construction projects. The number one challenge, he said, is managing the growth. And it's really interesting. If you all live here, for those of you that live here, you're familiar with the Kinney Ford extension they did from Old Settlers, right, all the way down to Lewis Henna. Well, that was in the plans something like a decade ago, apparently. And a decade ago, I mean, you were laughed if they said, hey, we're going to extend Kinney Fort from Old Settlers all the way down to 45. It'd been like, why bother? No one drives over there. Now that road is a necessity, and it just opened. I don't even know, 6 months ago maybe, and I use it almost every day. It's a great road they cut. So managing growth is a huge challenge. We're always trying to think ahead. What's our next thing? How do we get ahead of it? And that's the thing I've noticed in Round Rock. And I'm going to tell you, and you can comment down below if you want. I'm going to tell you that one thing I noticed is I feel like they make a good effort to have a vision for what's going to come down the road. Impossible to stay fully ahead of it. But I've seen many cities, and I won't name any Austin cities, where it feels like it's reactive versus proactive, right? And I feel like Round Rock is very proactive in their approach to that. So that's their number one challenge. Now, this is not all roses here, because I'm going to tell you some things I personally don't love. I like old Round Rock. I like buildings not over 2 stories, that kind of thing. He did say they have changed zoning along May Street. If y'all know May Street, it's the one that goes right into downtown Round Rock. And essentially, they changed the zoning on May Street. If I got this right, close to downtown Round Rock, they're changing that zoning to 4 stories. As you move away on May Street, away from downtown, it's going to go up to 12 stories. And I'll tell you, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. I'm not. So if you like that, that's awesome. They feel like they need to increase retail, right? Things to bring people to Round Rock, which of course helps with the tax base, the revenue base, etc. I get it. Not a fan of that. So he talked a little bit about that. He basically said like it will be zoned for 12 stories, or maybe it is already done for 12 stories. Where you go, Mays all the way up to 79, and I think he said Mays where Gaddis and Mays meet down there. So none of that's going to change tomorrow, especially not in the inflationary economy that we're in right now. But Round Rockers, it's coming. We know it's coming. So it is what it is. Now the other thing is, have you all heard about data centers? And I am literally joking. Everyone has heard about data centers, right? That's one of the biggest controversies or talking points that we have in Central Texas right now. And I agree, it's interesting, and I feel like when you go on social media, sometimes that's the worst place to go, because you're getting information all the way across the board, right? You're getting, that's the worst thing ever, the sky is falling, they're going to destroy our whole way of being, to they're completely safe, making us tons of money, yada yada yada. So I was curious what Mayor Morgan would say about them, and this was what he said: they're inevitable, they're going to happen. However, we have control, not we as in you and me, but as in our city council and our mayor, have control over how that's done. He said that, and again, I hope I'm doing this right. I tried to get as good notes as I could. He said that the data centers in Round Rock are closed loop, which means they run their own water. And they said the equivalent one data center, for example, Sabi, which if y'all know where Sabi is, Double Creek and Lewis Henna, uses the equivalent of 15 homes worth of water. So what 15 homes in our area would use in a year, that's what Sabi, the data center, uses in a year. That's not that much, because the difference would be, if I'm being honest, they pay like $1 million in tax. We pay like 15 homes would be what? 150,000, 200,000 in tax. I don't know, something like that. So clearly that's not a huge impact. So I think that's sort of the deal they have. There's going to be more data centers. I mean, he said it. There are. It's economically makes sense. They're going to be happening anyway. So they want to control how they happen and basically help the city of Round Rock profit from that and be able to use that money for other things. So, not a fan, not a fan. Just is what it is. So he did change gears from there because he addressed some things. He said, "Hey, there's 7 projects going on right now." He gave us dates when those projects are going to be done. Said you can go to roundrockcity.gov and you can see when those projects are supposed to be done. There's a couple more projects that will start when those projects are done, because it feels like, I don't know if you're like me, it feels like everywhere you go, there's a construction project going on. It's crazy. So anyway, that's the deal with that. He talked about one really great thing with Round Rock right now is some of the surrounding communities. For example, in Taylor, they've built a Samsung microchip manufacturing plant, recently opened or partially opened at this point. I'm not really sure. And that's going to be a positive impact for families and development in Round Rock. Why? Because Taylor, if y'all have been out to Taylor, first of all, Louis Mueller's out there. Shout out to one of my favorite barbecue places in Central Texas. Is amazing. Taylor is years behind Round Rock in development, right? In actual housing and just livability. It's a great area. I love it, but it's not where it's at. So there's a lot of people who will be coming in to be part of the Samsung corporate infrastructure, and they're probably going to live in Round Rock. highest rated schools, which we'll get to. You know, straight shot out to Taylor, and just a lot of stuff for families to do in the Round Rock area. So that will be a positive. We're gonna grow, people. No matter what happens, we're gonna grow. It's just inevitable. So now the mayor did talk about two props that are coming up on this upcoming election: Prop A, Prop B. And he basically said Prop A is they want to put billboards on I-35 through Round Rock and on Highway 45 that cuts across from east to west. They want to be able to put billboards on those. They're framing it as a public safety thing. It's the pro billboard movement is being backed by some company that might benefit from it. Don't know who that might be, but some company that might benefit from billboards being on there is allegedly backing it. The firefighters union apparently has signed off on it. I don't know if that's true or not. The mayor said he's totally against it. And you know what? I'm just going to flat out say right here, I agree. We don't need billboards going through Round Rock. It'll have no public safety benefit whatsoever. That's just not. I do not believe that's true at all. And it'll be ugly. Now, someone will make a lot of money off it. The company that actually owns the billboards will make a fortune off it. Congrats to them. But I would absolutely vote down Prop A. And then Prop B was an interesting one that he talked about. Prop B sounded like, from what he was saying, I've still got more research to do, that it's got this mixed combination of things. So on the surface, Prop B talks about having four-man firefighter crews on every truck for every fire station. And that sounds great. And according to him, they're already working towards that. So it's like, that's on the surface. Then it talked about something about a 2-year independent audit by some outside company that's not in our area. I don't know if that was auditing like how the fire department's working or the city's working, but it sounded like it was outsiders coming in trying to pretend like they know what's best for Round Rock. And then something about waiving sovereign immunity, and which if you all understand what that is. So Prop B also sounds bad to me personally. I think it's unnecessary. My biggest takeaway from this is I do believe, not perfect, I do believe that they're making their best efforts to see how Round Rock needs to be and run it accordingly. I can't imagine the challenges they go through and probably the crap they have to listen to from people. So interesting stuff. Okay. Now moving on, the next person that talked was actually the Round Rock Independent School District Superintendent. And I would say the biggest thing I got from him, first of all, Round Rock is a fairly highly rated school district, and it has a great reputation when you look at its rankings. He may have misspoke about some of the rankings. I'm just being honest. But the one thing he didn't misspeak about that was interesting is that Round Rock ISD had more national merit scholars than any ISD in Texas. Boom. I mean, that's legit. If you're looking for a place and hey, I can move to this town or this town or this town, and you got kids that are going to high school and you want them to succeed, Round Rock ISD could be that area for sure. I mean, there's a reason when people move to Central Texas, a lot of times they look for Round Rock because of the ISD. It's definitely legit. They also have, and this is verifiable, the lowest school tax rate in the area. I don't know about Texas, probably not, but in the Central Texas area, they have the lowest school tax rate in the area. He was pressed a little bit on that, like, well, how do you manage the budgets? Because it seems like you guys are offering a lot of stuff. And he talked about the challenges. It's challenging to pay teachers. It's challenging to offer programs. It's challenging, and some of the struggles they did. Now, he was the most glass half full person of the three people that presented there. Not dogging him, just he was. It's what he was. So, but I know that the school tax rate is verifiable. I know that the National Merit Scholars is verifiable. I know you can see where the schools ranked. He mentioned a high school in Round Rock, and said it was the number one school in the state. I can't find any verification of that, so I don't know if he had some angle it was the number one because of this or because of that. No idea. I will just tell you that schools like Westwood High School are incredibly highly rated. They bring a lot to the table. You can get like associate credits for college at schools like Westwood, and so that's super cool. And then the one thing he talked about that I thought was super exciting, I think this is awesome. I thought this was amazing. They secured a location, and they're going to be doing, which is essentially like a technical college, not technical college, sorry. We used to call it, oh my gosh, what do we freaking call it? It was like wood shop and auto shop, and it was like trade school stuff, right? So they have secured a location, and they were building like a $200,000 he called it CTE, and it means someone asked him what it was. I can't remember. Something technical education. So basically, it's like the trade school stuff. But 200,000 square feet. They've partnered with a bunch of different organizations. It's not just going to be like, hey, wood shop and auto shop, how to fix cars, and um, like cosmetology school. It's going to have those for sure, which is awesome, right? It's also got a nursing or there was a nursing program relative to Round Rock ISD that you can do. It's also going to have, they've talked to Samsung. They're doing some like combined stuff for microchip manufacturing education for these high school kids, for robotics, right, for engineering. So this is some next level stuff. So kids can go to their regular high school, then they can go to the CTE campus to work on that kind of stuff as well and kind of get both. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's some of the stuff I see, change my notes here, that Round Rock is doing, I think, in the school district system situation that is pretty awesome. So overall, Round Rock, if you're a family, it's a good place to send your kids to school. Not perfect. Nowhere's going to be perfect. But definitely a good choice if you're a family looking in this area. So, and the final person that spoke was the police chief, and he was freaking hysterical. That guy is awesome. So, it's funny because, there's a lot of controversy and a lot of stuff on social media right now about police, and they show, a 5-second clip of someone getting tased, and then you don't see the whole backstory. So of course you're like, oh my gosh, awful cop just tased that guy. I generally look at it and go, yeah, dude must have deserved it. So, but not always the case, I realize. So there are challenges. Anyway, police chief, Round Rock police chief, been a police officer for 34 years. He has been the police chief for Round Rock for 12 years. And I do think they do a great job. And I can tell you stories and stuff I've seen personally, but I do think they do a great job. They have, just some statistical information for you, they have 219 allotted spots for police officers. Right now, they only have 193 police officers. Now, percentage-wise, that's pretty good. If you want to look at, say, Austin, which I realize is a much bigger city, and look at the percentage, look how many officers Austin is missing. It's crazy. So Round Rock is well-staffed. Police officers want to be police officers in Round Rock. Right now, they have 17 officers in the police academy. So if those guys, when they graduate here in a month or two, as long as no one retires, they're going to be up to like 210 out of 219 officers. So that's awesome because that helps with what? Public safety, exactly. So he asked the question, how many calls do you think they get? Not how many things do they respond to on their own, but how many inbound calls do they get for services in the course of a year? People were throwing out guesses. Yeah, the number was 128,000 inbound calls per year. That was kind of mind-blowing if you think about it, 128,000. We talked about that for a little bit, just how important that is. Domestic calls. Every police officer in Round Rock goes through 80 hours of mental health training, for mental health counseling type training. So, and there are situations when there are calls that come in where it might be better for like for example, if a child has an issue and the parent calls, says, hey, Billy is having a psychotic episode. Well, they send the police, that might send them off, right? So they actually have counselors who will go out and handle some of that, as long as it's going to be safe. And I thought that was cool because there's a lot of talk about that, right? You see it all over social media. So I think that's actually really cool. Traffic stops. He asked the question, how many traffic stops does the Round Rock Police execute every year? And I was in the back. I go, not enough. He laughed. And he's like, you're right, but they do 31,000 traffic stops every year. Is that enough? No. It's a city. They're spread thin. They can only do so many, right? But 31,000 traffic stops a year. And he said the biggest thing is, the red light runners, of course, is a big deal, but they will stop people when they're running. They see them on a red light. If they see lane splitting, which is what motorcycles ride between, because you move here from California, lane splitting is normal in California. You're a motorcycle in California, man. And I've been there. People flying down the freeway in between cars at like 80 miles an hour on their Ninja. It's crazy. Here, that's illegal. So people move here, they need to know that. What else? He talked about the fact that they do try to do a lot of mental health services when they find homeless, when there's homeless related issues. However, there is, of course, no public camping and no panhandling, and they enforce those as strictly as they possibly can to keep it that way. They plan to keep it that way, which I actually appreciate. So the cool thing he talked about is they're opening a new downtown parks and trails division of Round Rock Police Department, and they're going to be on bikes. And he said not e-bikes, actual bikes. So those guys will be working out, and ATVs, etc. They'll be patrolling parks, right? the downtown area. So they're going to heighten the presence in those areas, try to make those areas safer and be more available for everybody. And that makes sense if you think back to the expansion that's going to happen. The expansion that's going to happen in downtown, right, with the 4 stories to the 12 stories. That means when that does happen, and I'm sure it will, then there's going to be a lot more people downtown. There'll be a much bigger need for a public safety presence there for sure. So that's a lot of stuff. I realize I just went over a whole ton of stuff. Hey, do me a favor. If you stuck it out this long, I would love to know in the comments, do you live in Round Rock? What do you think of what I said? Was I way off base on anything? I mean, this is just my notes that I took from this meeting. Any questions that you have, I would love to know any of that stuff. I actually really enjoyed going to this, and I learned a lot. And I literally talked to the mayor for about 10 minutes afterwards. He's very approachable. He literally said, hey, if someone has a question, they can call me. Obviously, he may be hard to get in touch with. I literally talked to the police chief afterwards, right? He was great to talk to. And it was really power packed. I would say this: as a city, I genuinely believe we're in good hands. It's not perfect. There's things that irritate me for sure. I'm sure there's things that irritate you. But as a city, overall, I think we're in good hands. This is not a political message. I know who I'm voting for come May. I'd like to see him, for more years. That is 4 more years, whatever he gets. I would like to make sure that this city continues to make visionary decisions, strong budget decisions, and keeping us kind of at the top of mind when they do their stuff. So anyway, would love your feedback, would love any comments. If you want the information or copies of my notes also, just let me know. Message me. I'm happy to share that stuff with you. Gotta love Round Rock. All right, y'all take care.